I've been waiting my whole career to interview you, Tom Hanks, and I think one of the reasons why is because you're an actor who's so respected across genres, genders, and races. Your work, quite frankly, has never shied away from tackling some of the uglier sides of American history with regard to race and even sexual orientation. Why is it that you think those types of roles find their way to you, and why is it that you look to bring those projects to life?
That's interesting because I will say that there's a type of storytelling that I think can become medicinal, as in we have to be altruistic. So let's make an editorial statement on you pick the topic. And oftentimes those editorial statements they lack mystery and they lack authenticity, and I think sometimes they take away the human element that is not broken up to and cannot survive the protagonist-antagonist dynamic that most storytelling is. Somebody has a dream, they have a bad guy that wants to thwart them. Somebody wants to bring freedom, and they have a tyrant that wants to step on. Now that does happen in history. But in American history, as checkered as it is, and as paired as it is with this land of opportunity that we live in, there is a concept of trying to bring liberty and justice for all that needs to occasionally be brought out forthwith, without a doubt, not with a blow to the chops, but I think perhaps with a raised fist in the air, because that comment must be made. But there are other aspects that I think the best way in order to discuss this is through a dispassionate question of what are we afraid of? Are we afraid of this gay guy that lost his job because he's gay? Are we afraid of this guy because he's dying of AIDS and he might give it to? What are we afraid of? And I think the stuff that I am attracted to always brings into account, we try to always bring it into account, sometimes we're not always able to, is that more often than I think history evolves by way of people that are not necessarily wrong. When everybody actually thinks that, no, this is how we get there, this is how we make a more perfect union, there's a possibility for a step backward, but it can lead to 2 steps forward. And as long as you make it 2 steps forward, you're going to make some small, slow, incremental process. And that's what have always been, I don't know, I don't want to say attracted, but that's kind of what I saw when I was growing up. I was lucky. I did grow up in Oakland, California. It was a very integrated city. Not that it wasn't divided, it certainly was. But every time I got around on the bus, and every bus was oddly a demographic representation of the city of Oakland. There were Chinese people there from Chinatown, there were white people from the white side of town, there were black people from the black side of town. And you know what? We all just got on the bus and got off, when it's time for our stop. So I do try to look at the examination of nonfiction aspects of any story. And I think we're not doing our job as people in cinema unless there is that element of truthful nonfiction to it. And it's rarely bad guy, good guy dynamic. You have to find these grays areas where the most you can say about somebody is, I think he's wrong. They disagree, but I think that he might be wrong. And guess what? I think oftentimes the person who is wrong comes to a place in life where they say, I think I was wrong about that. And they shift. That can happen. That happens over and over again in the history of this country, which makes me a silly optimist, I guess, perhaps, but guilty.